We are here with game designer Tim Fowers. We just finished playing his brand new game, Sabotage. We've had an absolutely great time playing it, and we just want to do a little interview with Tim. We actually had dinner with him last night and just had a great time talking about all kinds of things game related. Tim, how are you?
Hey, doing good.
Good. So your newest game is Sabotage, but we know you from, we've talked many times on the pod about Burgle Brothers, we've talked about Paperback, we've talked about Fugitive, and now Boarding actually is one game we have not played of yours and has gotten rave reviews.
Yeah, I mostly just sell direct. I've been at it for, I've been full-time since 2015. And no, I'm just, doing my thing and glad that people like it.
So you've got a Kickstarter coming up soon too, right?
I just
No, not Kickstarter. I'm sorry. Just tell us what the deal is with Burgle Brothers too.
So Burgle, 2 months ago, I had a Kickstarter for Burgle Bros 2, the Casino Capers set in Vegas.
Yeah.
And it's a remix of the original mechanics. It's weird to make a sequel of a board game. Like, there aren't a lot of twos out there. So we had to kind of decide what that meant, but with kind of being a Ocean's 11 thing, we wanted to make a sequel. So we felt like we had enough new things to say with it that we did a sequel. So.
Well, a lot of your games are very cinematic. Burgle Brothers certainly is tremendously cinematic. Sabotage is very cinematic, and for those games, I think doing a sequel is a lot easier to do. I mean, I would say that Pandemic Legacy had a season 2 because it felt very much like that kind of experience. And your games are even though very different, they're similar.
Yeah, they're doing television, I'm doing movies. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we also, after Burgle Bros hit such a vein, we really started to look at movies for inspiration of like, okay, this is a scaffolding of like an emotional framework. People understand the arc of a movie, what emotions it's going to produce. We have tropes to lean on, and so with Fugitive, now Boarding is, I guess, Catch Me If You Can. It's not necessarily cinematic, but then with Sabotage, it was very much, Bondian, but also like even just the vibe in Incredibles, sneaking into the base and the 50s retro.
The artwork definitely suggests Incredibles. I was looking at it and I was like, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect for that kind of
volcano
tone.
base. Yeah.
So, Trey, do you want to talk about Tabletop Network?
Yeah. Tim, you founded Tabletop Network. Why don't you just explain to folks at home what it's all about?
We just felt there needed to be a kind of a seminar-style conference for board game designers where you could actually listen. Board game designers love to get together, but they just play test.
Right.
So we're looking at other industries, like especially video game industry, things like GDC, Game Developers Conference, and like, okay, there's something missing here, and just professional development. And it turns out that there's like a big void for camaraderie. Like, once we opened the doors and started doing, the talks are all useful, but just the camaraderie between designers and kind of establishing a positive kind of mentorship vibe, it was great. And so it's a 2-day conference of talks and workshops and some hands-on stuff. And we just finished it. We're a little exhausted, but I mean, it was good, and we had incredible people there. Just incredible talks.
I mean, a ton of top designers giving like TED Talk style presentations over, all kinds of different topics. And then, like one of the highlights at the end was the Shark Tank, where designers get to pitch their games. And this year,
to people like Martin Wallace,
was
just staring at them like, "What are you doing?"
Well, it would be better if he were just staring. But no, Martin Wallace had a lot to say.
Oh my gosh. Steve Bonacore, Martin Wallace, and then a representative from White Wizard and Ravensburger. And some were being Paula, some were being Simon Cowell. Like they were, but the format is just, it's an elevator pitch. It's 3 minutes and you're asking for just honesty. And it's touching and terrifying, and it's just a whole range of emotions.
And it's, even though it can be painful, it's clearly very helpful to people as far as both understanding what publishers want, but also just like how you have to be able to communicate about your game and 30 seconds. Plus, it was also half the time it was simply anyone would reject your game at this point because these things are not there. Whether it's like way too many components, the theme doesn't match the mechanics.
Yeah, blind spots. Like here are your blind spots, and I mean, it's not always in a nice way. But like
it was not always in a nice way, yes.
But I mean, but also like everyone wants to sign up and make a Kickstarter, and it's like everyone can do it. But this really brings home what it takes, not just with preparation, but also just like presence and pitching and all these like social skills, like that you think you might not think you need. So
well, it's so hard because, as you said, game designers are very lonely people. They don't have a lot of, there's not a huge support network, and especially not a network of people that have produced games.
I'm not a lonely gamers. I'm not a lonely person. You're not a lonely person.
Every game designer I know is just a sad, lonely.
Tim, does this describe? This does not describe you either. I don't think.
They scare away all their friends because they play tested them to death.
Maybe, but you've built a little bit of a community. Like you've started a business now.
Yeah, I have a studio, I think is the best way to say it. I have a couple of guys that each actually have their own brands, and we just kind of like help each other in like kind of feedback. But I don't really have employees per se.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
For everybody on the podcast, we've talked many times about the Italian Collective and how they come in and out of each other's games and help each other. Tim is doing that in Utah right now, and it's pretty exciting.
No, I'm jealous. You've built a community. I imagine it's very helpful for always getting feedback. You show up for work. Yeah. You're not just in your PJs or whatever. You go to work. You got to pay the rent. You're getting feedback. You're also I look to you as somebody who's like doing things differently. Like maybe the model of, hey, I'm going to make a game. I'm going to go pitch it to publishers. They're gonna sign it, and then I'm going to make, 4 cents on the dollar on the thing. You're not doing it that way.
Well, yeah, so it's a lot of direct sales, but I'm also avoiding distribution. And it gets a little bit into the weeds of like how these models work, but basically I'm kind of bucking the whole normal way of selling. And I'm just like, I'm going to sell direct to people. I mean, I am in some stores, so it's not like I'm not in stores, but if people know how stores get games, it's usually through distribution, and distribution lead to online retailers like Miniature Market and Cool Stuff Inc. and whatnot. But those guys doing heavy discounting undercuts the whole process. So now everyone's like, oh, I should always get 40% off on my games, and that really undermines the ability to live off this stuff. And so I've just been slow grow, direct sales, and by doing that, it's like I don't sell very many, but it's actually, I think, a more sustainable I don't have a big company to run, so I'm keeping my overhead low, but it's actually very sustainable in the long run, so I'm able to be full-time.
Well, the other thing is you have created a brand. Your games are you're not just a self-published designer. You have a brand. Your games look and feel a certain way. Sure, paperback is a little bit different than now boarding. Now boarding is a little bit different than Sabotage, but they all feel like, it feels like when a new Tim Fowers game is coming out, we kind of have an idea of what it is. And I have to tell you, you're one of the few designers I know where you have not put out a bad game yet. There's not a game of yours. No.
Maybe you haven't seen them. No.
But
Tim, do you have any bad games, Tim? Please answer the question. Do you have any bad games?
Yeah, I need a yes or no. Yes, I have bad games.
I don't. I own Burgle Brothers. I own Fugitive. I own Paperback.
I do. I throw a lot away. I mean, because, okay, the part of that whole distribution model is it's about velocity.
Right.
And so most people that even people that are doing kind of the self-publishing thing, once you go into distribution, to maintain the margins that you need, you have to do 3 or 4 games a year. Like,
wow.
Completed games in and out, right? So then you need the staff to do that, right?
Yep.
So me, it's like I have to do 1 game a year. So I'll spend 3 months on a game, sometimes 6 months on a game. And it's just like, yes, there's a lot that were just not good enough. And it's and you have that sunk cost. It's really hard to walk away from because you're like, no, I can make it work. And so, yeah, I mean, we got a graveyard.
You never played Flowchart.
Oh, no. No flowchart, man. That's like the ex-girlfriend that like is crazy, but you just keep, you keep going back to her. Like,
Sorry, I had to do it.
I mean, we
it's
could
so
talk.
bad.
We could talk about some screenplays that TREY wrote that hasn't seen the light of day.
And we're done here at DGG Con. Tim Fowers.
Tim, last question.
No, we're done here. Sorry.
We're always looking for what people think are hidden gems. So games that are not yours that you love, that you really really like, that maybe aren't the first thing people think of when they think of a great game. Because you play a lot of games as well as
not as much as I should.
Well, sure. Of course.
Yeah. Let's see. There's a new one called Die Crew from
I've been hearing about that.
It came out at Germany.
Today, yeah.
Well, I mean, still haven't played it, but a lot of really good. I've had several people tell me directly about it. Like hidden gems. I've been getting back into some of the old ones, like Innovation. Like it didn't get enough credit.
Carl Chuddick, fantastic game.
Yeah, but I mean, it kind of has kind of faded away, and it's like it's a really solid game. I mean, there are some modern classics that, with the velocity of everything, you're like, oh yeah, that was a good game, and the cult of the new just push you into the new stuff. And so I think finding a collection of like modern classics that haven't been, because very often you'll have like a Dominion and it grows into this whole genre, but then you have these little offshoots like that didn't go anywhere, but they were onto something. I think having some kind of like list or something of like modern classics would be interesting. So
we may have to put that together. That we've been talking internally about having an episode where we're talking about Christmas recommendations for every type of gamer, and going off that kind of thing. But actually starting to put together a list of instant classics. This month we were doing old school was the theme, so we were talking about a lot of older games and sort of separating which ones have aged very well and which ones haven't.
Yeah. And there's also, it's a moving target. People's sensibilities get heavier. Like as a community, we get heavier over time. It's just happened. And there's just different things. Like the funniest one is when you see like somebody comes to Tabletop Network or something, or they pop up and they're like, I've been working on this game for 10 years in my basement, and you're just like, sweet summer child, I'm so sorry you missed all the memos about how we've evolved as a community, and so you try to educate them. And I know your chess game has 3 players instead of 2,
right?
But that's just not where we're at right now.
That's literally someone we know
exactly
the 4-player chess guy. Yeah, we know it.
Yeah.
It's not a.
Tim, thank you so much. We've had a really really great time at the con with you.
Yeah, congratulations on Sabotage. It's a great game.
We're going to be reviewing it very very soon. It's fantastic.
And so if people want your game, they should go to your website.
Fowers.games.
Fowers.games.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where you go to get Sabotage. Buy it directly from Tim.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
If you call the customer support number, it goes to me. So if you just want to talk,
if you're going to talk to Tim,
and
customer support at Fowers.
In all seriousness, we don't know of a bad Tim Fowers game. They're all really really interesting and really fun.
Well, there certainly is pressure, so I'll keep throwing games away. So.
There you go.
All right, thanks
so
Tim.
All right, bye.